Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and review the 1998 sports drama, He Got Game. And before we get into it, stop what you're doing and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Wright Perspective Podcast. He Got Game stars Denzel Washington and Ray Allen and was written, produced, and directed by Spike Lee. The film made $22.4 million on a budget of $25 million. It was nominated for 3 NAACP Image Awards. And, again, it's one of these things where it's like, it didn't make money. It didn't make enough money, obviously, but it's definitely considered a hood film. And, would you all say that it's considered like a hood classic?
I don't think classic.
I don't know if I would say classic. I don't know. But it's definitely one I feel like everybody's seen.
Okay, maybe that's it.
But like,
because it feels like it's like a cherished, or maybe it's because it's a part of the Spike Lee movie group.
It is, like, but there's not like, I'm trying to think. I don't know any lines or anything that's permeated culture from that movie. It's not like something that will come up in a callback, and there's not a moment in the movie where you're like, oh, remember when blah blah blah,
yeah.
So it's like,
okay, so
yeah,
I was trying, so generally, and it's not always, but for the most part, the content we cover is considered classics.
Yeah.
And so for this one, I think it could be about the fact that the cast is people who Washington,
that is
Rosario Dawson, even the fact that Ray Allen, the basketball player, was in it,
Yeah.
And y'all, there's actually I watched interviews where Spike Lee and Denzel and Ray Allen all talked about the possibility of a remake. So this one could be coming back, y'all. And they were talking about like it would be like Jesus Shuttlesworth getting toward the end of his career.
So not a remake, a sequel.
I'm sorry, a sequel.
A sequel. Okay.
I meant sequel. They were saying sequel because they were saying there's so many things happening right now that could be just in terms of society, like a really
that would actually be interesting.
It totally. And I was like, okay, people.
How old is Ray Allen? Like, I wonder if he would still be able to pull that off. I mean, I don't know. I don't know sports.
Let's be clear. Some of these people went to Greece High School up in this movie.
All right. So now we're getting into the.
All right, we got it. Okay.
Yo, Aubrey, you are not a high school.
So I think he was in his 30s. I got to go back to that trivia.
Yeah, I was what? You are the coach.
Again, I mean, for the reasons we've just talked about, for some, this movie will be considered a classic. But today, we will determine whether it is a classic from the Wright perspective. We are going to do a recap, and then we're going to discuss the movie, and then we're going to vote using a voting symbol that we will pick especially for this discussion. But we always start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
I am Brittany Wright. I am the youngest, and I have new glasses.
Yeah, they're nice. I didn't know.
Very nice.
Target off.
And you might not be the youngest on the podcast today because my daughter might join us at some point. We'll see. She's slightly off camera right now. Relaxing. We'll see how long it lasts. Well, let's get into it, y'all. Let's pick a voting symbol. So I have one to recommend, and if you're new to our podcast, we try to really, think expansively about the possibilities for a voting symbol for each movie. I tend to really get into the symbolism, get into the nitty gritty here of the messages
she thinks
that the creators are trying to send to us
through the movie. The creators are never
even if they didn't know
those messages. Yeah, they're never.
And Aubrey
never trying to send those messages.
Aubrey reference like iconic imagery, an iconic sentiment. And Brittany does not prepare at all and just hops on the podcast because she didn't know we were going to have the conversation and just says any number of words that are somewhat related.
Sometimes they stick.
Yeah, and literally Genia, before we started recording, started talking about her symbol, and I was like, oh yeah. In my head, I was like, I forgot we do have symbols.
Every time.
Every time. I don't know what happens. I don't know why.
We don't know either.
Yeah.
We don't know either what happens.
Here's the thing about it. You're welcome. It's
Well,
like watching poetry in motion. You know,
I want to recommend. This might be a very fast symbol picking for us because I have a great one to recommend.
All right, go ahead.
So, I know some of you, parentheses, Aubrey, are probably thinking of a basketball. Okay?
The only one that you knew that. I was like, they know what this one seems pretty obvious to me.
I would like to recommend that we consider using a basketball hoop. Why? Well, I'm glad you asked. Okay. It's because everybody around Jesus Shuttlesworth in this movie was focused on the destination for him instead of his journey and experience. I mean, at the end of the day, the whole inciting incident for this whole set of storylines was the father being so pressed about the son being able to be in the NBA that he was not caring at all about whether his methods were actually going to be helpful, his training methods for the young man, and whether they were going to be helpful for his family. He was so obsessed with his son being a basketball star at some point that it led him to to physically abuse his son and to physically abuse his wife to the point where he pushed her and she died. And so all of this was his obsession with...
Oh, spoilers.
Oh, yeah. Spoiler alert.
She did.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
We're all about spoilers on this podcast, y'all. You know, general spoiler alert if you're new, okay? Because our content is so old, okay? People have seen it already, or they just want to know the rest. They just want to know what happened so they can be a part of our conversation. That's why we do a meaty recap as well. So, yeah, big spoiler alert. But the point is that it was just this obsession with the destination. And it's like, what about the journey? You know, what about getting there and making sure that that is an experience that can be, you know, something that would be less damaging and less harmful. And it was the same thing about people just wanting to know what he was going to do after high school. You know, the media, his quote unquote friends, his family. Everybody around him was just like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Nobody was actually trying to support him in his thinking and in his decision making. So this is a situation where people were so obsessed with the end point that they couldn't think about the journey to get there. That's why I was thinking basketball hoop could symbolize that.
Well, Genia, I'm on board with your recommendation.
What?
And I'll tell you why, because because the basketball is pretty obvious. But that is the one because even watching, I was like, I know I will say basketball. And I was thinking maybe I won't do basketball, but you know, in the final scene, then he throws the basketball all the way from jail to the arena. I was like, yeah, I'm going to say basketball. So.
On with his symbolism.
He had to spike it up a little bit.
Right at the end.
He had to spike it a little bit. You need a little spike in there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And but I'm saying I knew it was on the nose. Before I try back, I knew it was on the nose. And I feel like your suggestion is not as far off the nose as it normally is. So
I'll take it. I'm the person. I'll take a win.
I didn't even have to reach that far for that one.
Not at all.
Because if you don't, if it's the first time you ever say, normally Janelle will say something like in the third scene, there was a gum wrapper on the chair.
What that symbolizes.
And you know, we all get chewed up and thrown away. Right?
It's funny, but we do. You're making a joke, but it's true. You're hitting on something. Sis, what do you think?
I was just going to say basketball.
Okay.
All right, so let's go with who?
Basketball who?
Yep.
At the end of this discussion, the movie must get 3 basketball hoops. If it gets 0, 1, or 2, it will not be considered a classic from the Wright perspective.
Oh, Janelle, I'm gonna take it a little deeper for you.
What'd you say, bro?
I'm gonna take it a little deeper for you because in the beginning they were showing all these different kind of basketball hoops and different basketball situations, and so oh my gosh, I mean that could put us on a whole. So yeah,
well, your hoop
might be a crate.
Why don't we start there, bro? I would love to talk about that opening montage.
All right, so no. Let's let Brittany do the.
Oh, that's right. The recap.
Yeah. Brittany, you do the recap, then we'll get into the opening montage.
Yeah, good idea.
Excellent. All right, so let's jump in. My 20-page recap begins now. He Got Game is a drama about the Shuttlesworth family. To be more specific, it is about the tumultuous relationship between a father, Jake Shuttlesworth, played by Denzel Washington, and a son, Jesus Shuttleworth, played by now former NBA player Ray Allen. Jake has served 6 years of a 15-year sentence for accidentally killing his wife, Martha Shuttlesworth, played by Lynette McKee, during a drunken child abuse encounter with Jesus. This moment commenced the hatred that Jesus carries for Jake in his heart. Now 17 years old, Jesus is a nationally known high school basketball star. Everyone wants a piece of Jesus, from top D1 colleges to the NBA to local gangsters to his beloved coach to sports agents. This movie takes place over a 7-day period. 2 important events take place at the end of the 7 days. 1, Jesus will announce to the nation which college he will attend or join the NBA draft. 2, Jake is approached by the warden of the prison, played by Ned Beatty, with a proposition from the governor. The governor will allow Jake 7 supervised days to get Jesus to sign a letter of intent to play at the governor's alma mater, Big State University. If Jake gets Jesus to sign this letter of intent, Jake's sentence will be lowered. Jesus is feeling the pressure of his decision on all sides, from family that assumed responsibility for him and his sister after the passing of their mother and their father going to prison, to his girlfriend Lala, played by Rosario Dawson. All are asking Jesus what he's leaning towards. Jesus' main concern is making sure that his decision will positively impact his younger sister, Mary Shuttlesworth, played by Zelda Harris, whom he loves so much. In the midst of weighing his options, the last person that Jesus ever wanted to see shows up, his father. Jake initially tells Jesus and Mary that he is out on a work release program. Jesus makes it clear that he does not want to see nor speak with Jake, but Jake asks Jesus for a moment of his time on Jesus' terms. Jake wastes no time asking Jesus about his pending decision. Of course, it immediately frustrates Jesus, as now his estranged father is added to the list of people desiring to know his decision. Over the next 5 days, you see Jesus being approached by families, schools, and agents trying to get a part of his current and future success. Jake's 5 days are filled with grappling with pseudo freedom, realizing how much he's hurt his family and how close he is to a lighter sentence. Jake begins wanting Jesus' forgiveness more than him to sign the letter. On the 6th day, Jake challenges Jesus to a one-on-one. These one-on-ones go back to when Jesus was a child and could never beat his father. Now older and more skilled, Jesus is confident he can beat Jake. The terms of the one-on-one are: if Jake wins, Jesus signs a letter of intent to go to Big State University, but if Jesus loses, Jake will leave Jesus and Mary's life forever. Jesus wins 11-5. Jesus tells Jake one more time that he is not his father. Jake takes that moment to remind him the importance of forgiveness by saying, "Let me tell you something. You look out for yourself. You look out for your sister. You ain't got to worry about me no more. But you get that hatred out your heart, boy, or you're going to end up like just any other nigga, like your father. It's your ball." On the seventh day, Jesus and his family rested, but he did write a letter that his coach read to the media. Jesus chooses to attend a big state university. Of course, this decision comes late with an unsigned letter of intent. However, Jake seems to be at peace that he'll be serving his full sentence because we see the relationship between he and his son begin the healing process. Jesus is satisfied with his decision as he has found a great middle school for his sister to attend, and as those 6 days gave him something he'll need forever, a path to forgiving his father. The end.
All right.
Yay! Great recap, sister. That was excellent.
Thank you. Listen, I had to live up. You know, when Aubrey and I did these recaps, we had to live up. So what was being served these past few seasons?
Oh my gosh, thank you for that. But sis, you really did it there. And I'm wondering where we should start with this.
Well, you said you wanted to talk about the montage.
Yes, and because I'm happy you brought that up.
Okay, so what makes you happy I brought it up? And why don't I just describe it for people if you haven't seen the movie? So the movie, the opening credits, the beginning actually starts with a montage of just young people, just all different kinds of young people playing basketball. And you know, they start with like people in the country, then you see some city views. First it's all boys, then a couple of girls get spliced in. It's all races. In fact, it's mostly white people in the montage, white kids playing basketball. And so, you know, I took the montage as, you know, kind of reminding us how much basketball is like a worldwide phenomenon at this point. And at least in America, there's an obsession with as a sport. And it's not just for career pathing to richness. It is like people are fanatical about teams that they support. It is truly a huge piece of our culture. So, but sis, you were like, oh, I'm happy you brought it up. What made you say that?
Yes, because it was actually going to be my question for you after the recap, not necessarily the montage, but more so the music for the montage and the music throughout the movie. Something very unique about this montage and for this type of movie is that the music was something you would see on a musical. There's something you would hear on a musical like a Seven Brides for Seven Brothers or, you know, any of the other musicals that we've discussed. It's not, you know, normally when you're having a basketball scene, you're hearing some hip hop or you're hearing some rock music. Like you're not hearing violins or and oboes and, you know, you're not hearing.
Well, you know, Spikey, we talked about before. He likes to mix.
He likes to mix it up. And so I loved seeing that because it also lets you know it gave basketball another level, a look of how classic it actually is and how it is an orchestra. When these individuals, when these NBA, WNBA players are playing basketball, high school, college, right, middle school, when they're doing this, their bodies literally are like a symphony. All of these things have to work together. My feet and my hands have to work together. My mind needs to, my eyes have to work to see where you're going next. So maybe I can get around you so I can get to the hoop myself, or I have to make sure I'm taking note of all my teammates that are around me so I can know who I maybe need to get it to. So, because the ultimate goal is to get the basket. And so I was just thinking about this symphony and how that's playing in the background, but also showing just how beautiful it made it poetry in a sense, because it was like, you know, when someone makes a basket, it's like a crescendo. It's like this beautiful situation that whoever is rooting for that team is so excited. So I really just loved how I was not expecting that. I knew Spike was always giving us something different, and I hadn't seen He Got Game in so long, which I want you all to know. I remember watching He Got Game for the first time during a family event. If you all don't, do you all remember that at Effie Granny's house? Uncle Larry played this movie, He Got Game. Y'all don't remember this? He played He Got Game when we were out. It was like Christmas and Thanksgiving. And we watched He Got Game as a family.
I don't remember that, bro.
I don't remember that at all.
Watching it with the family, or
I mean, that wasn't that bad of a movie. I mean, that could be watched at a family event.
With them sex scenes,
they weren't. Oh yeah.
With them sex scenes and our parents in particular.
Yeah.
If you're a prudish family,
yeah,
they watch that movie.
Yeah, there were a couple of those in there, but no, I don't remember that at all.
But that was my first time seeing He Got Game. Was at an awkward family moment.
What was everybody watching it?
Yeah, we were in Granny's room.
I feel like this was the first time I saw it. I feel like maybe.
Well, now, so I was a little older, so you may not have been there. Because did you come home for every holiday when you were in college?
Oh, so you were older?
Like older as in middle, like this came out in 98. So I was in middle school?
Yeah, it might have been. I might not have been there.
You might not have been there.
Yeah,
okay. And so, but yeah, like that is my first time seeing it. But with that being said, like those were the things I remembered, some stuff in my mind, but this, I did not remember the music. And so it just really struck me. So that montage and the music they really did stick with me. I was just like, this is so different. And I appreciate that. But why would I have expected anything less from Spike? I mean, come on, seriously. So
yeah, there were so it was really special because it wasn't just like soundtrack, it was score. It was like really dramatically scored. Like there were parts where it was like the music was not meant to be in the background. It was clearly like being accentuated. It was clearly like really, really over the top in some places, you know.
It sounded like some scene, like the dance scenes on Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, the music.
That was one, I'm gonna call it a Spikeism. That was one Spikeism, which was the way the music was handled.
Yeah.
I think another one was in some of the cinematography. I feel like Spike Lee does this thing where the character looks right at the camera for some reason, and then there's some narration happening or some music. That happened a few times.
Yeah.
I think another Spikeism was like at the end. And Aubrey talked about it earlier. Brittany, one of you referenced the fact that there's a ball that somehow like magically, you know,
it gets from prison to the big state university.
he takes like a symbol that is like a basketball, and he uses it to like symbolize a relationship growing by having a basketball just randomly kind of like fall out of the sky for the son at the same time that the father had thrown a ball over the wall of the prison.
Well, no, I thought it was showing he threw that ball to the son.
I thought it was symbolically he had.
No, yeah, obviously, but I'm okay. But I didn't think like they were. I thought you were describing it like they were separate, symbolic.
I thought it was the same ball, you know.
I was like, okay, Spike. I was like, okay, Spike, we'll let it slide.
I could have done without that, to be honest with you all. I didn't need that one.
I didn't need that one, but I let it slide. I didn't need that.
Well, listen, there were a couple of things I didn't need from this movie that again.
Why don't we start there?
What did you need?
I just felt like Jake's relationship with the hooker was unnecessary.
Sis, that whole thing.
I was just like, we didn't need this.
What was the point of it? Like, I don't understand.
The dad.
Yeah. Jake, you know, the pimp and the hooker. Jake, you know, kind of, you know, observing the pimp and the hooker, and then kind of like having like a romantic relationship with the hooker, and then the hooker at the end being so inspired by her romance with him, with Jake, that she leaves the hooker lifestyle. We didn't need any of that.
The hooker is Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say her last name.
I recognize her from The Fifth Element. Do y'all remember her?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's big.
She was The Fifth Element.
Yeah, she's big.
Yeah.
And the pimp was Thomas Jefferson Byrd, which Thomas Jefferson Byrd, I really am waiting in life to see you in not that type of role, because I just feel like he's always a pimp. There was something going on. But I know
I
levels
guess
to your acting. I know it. Oh, we're not
I guess
going.
I guess you're like, yeah,
in
that
2020.
who?
Oh,
Oh,
the
actor.
pimp, Thomas Jefferson Bird, he passed in 2020.
rest in peace.
Oh,
But yeah,
so
I guess that storyline didn't really
It did nothing.
advance the character.
It didn't help you to know Jake better. It didn't do anything.
Yeah, I didn't think that heavy of it because, but the only reason why I'm saying the movie was kind of long, and if you took that part out, it would have made the story. I didn't feel like it was long movie. I'm just saying it would have been tighter without that storyline, and it didn't really give you any further insights to who. Maybe it was him. Maybe it was he was trying to show how he was abusive person to an arc of being a person who's a protector of someone who's abused. Maybe that's what he was. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, like, no, I like that.
Maybe that's what
like
they
that.
were.
Bro, you just helped me.
Yeah, I like that.
Because when it started off, he was one who was actually doing it, and then he saved somebody from it. You know what I mean? Which was the whole, and him being abusive, which is what started this whole, you know what I mean, situation.
That's right. Bro, you just helped.
I love that, bro.
You just helped because I literally could not see any purpose for it whatsoever.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll take it.
Yeah, a bit and
of her
redemption.
Yeah. And for her, she was able to get free. We saw her on a bus to someplace, probably to Dakota, to one of the Dakotas, because that was her name. Was Dakota, and she was talking about North and South Dakota. So she's on her way to one of them. And I hope she's doing well. Probably working in a diner.
She's doing all right.
So
let me tell you.
Go ahead, bro.
Let me tell you, it's funny because I've been watching In the Heat of the Night. Remember when we
Oh, you still been watching it?
That show is crazy.
In a good way, like watch it?
No, just in a I mean, I enjoy it. It's also interesting because it's happening around the 90s, so like the late 80s, early 90s. So they have like these references for like, yeah, this is the Fresh Prince. But you're able to connect with it because that was at the time that we were, you know what I mean, growing up. But anyway, I'm not gonna spoil the old Heat in the Night. But it's just interesting. If you ever watch it, Brittany, you're gonna laugh about what you said right now because it's like a direct plot from the Heat of the Night.
I'm looking forward to this.
But I think that those characters, now what I will say as far as her and what, you know what I mean, hopefully she's doing well, like you said, working at a diner, doing whatever. But everybody in this situation, in this movie, felt real to me, in the sense that, like, you are looking at Jake's dad, for example. I mean, Jake, and you're like, look, you're coming out here to try to get your son to sign this, you know what I mean, thing for your own reasons. And I think all of us would easily like to say, if we were put in that situation, we would be like, I would never impact my, you know what I'm saying, child's, whatever, but in your mind, you would start thinking, well, I won't force him to go anything, but I feel like I should at least let him know, and you don't know how you'll be in those kind of situations, is what I'm saying. And I never felt like the core characters any of them were over evil. Even like Lala, who is, obviously she's horrible, but in her mind, it's like, yo, you see how this guy is about to, you know what I mean, blow up, and he's just gonna, you think you're just gonna get completely left in the lurch. Like you believe that. So you're like, well, at least let me get
something.
But but before he goes off in his life. And I just really appreciated that about all, like the ones, even the coach who he was also looking for his own interest or whatever. But even him, he was in these situations, where it was like he wasn't pushing hard, but he was still pushing. And I just feel like that's probably how it felt real to me. You know what I'm saying? The nobody was like overly evil, except for the governor, who we never even got to see. But
we got to see a painting of him. I was looking, that for me was just like, dang, how like we already know the initiation of our prison industrial system, how it was began. Mm-hmm. It was all, policing and all of that was started as a result of slavery ending. So they had to figure out another way to get Black people back into slavery. And so it hasn't gotten any better. It's actually gotten worse. And with this, knowing that you will take a piece of meat as if this is an animal and dangle it in front of their face and have them say, hey, here's 7 days to get your son to sign a letter of intent to go to my alma mater. And if it does, I'll lessen your sentence, which we know in circumstances like that, lessen might be 1 day, 1 day shorter than what you were going to be in prison, to maybe a few years lower. But the fact that this person's his basketball decision is more important to you than this actual prisoner's life or his rehabilitation is crazy. And I also, even to that point of the governor doing that, the arrogance of it, to just know that he would take it. Because here's the other thing: what if he said no? That can make the next years he's in prison horrible.
He didn't have no.
That's another.
He didn't have a.
Say no.
He couldn't say no. You did not have a choice. You didn't have a choice. That's another
piece of it.
And so it was just really very interesting.
Very complex.
It was so complex, and I was just like,
and not to skip to the ending, but I'm just saying, from what you're saying, the ending was very unsettling. And I think that is the point, kind of. I think emotionally, I was right where I was supposed to be based on what was trying to be done, because I wanted the moment where the governor got his somehow. Like I knew it wouldn't be, but just some way, you would think there was a scene where Ray Allen walks into his office and says something about, he does something to make sure that his dad gets what was agreed upon. But that's not how it would go down. The way it would go down is how it went down. And what's also interesting about it is you start feeling mad, but you're like, but he killed his wife though, and so it puts you in this weird place where it was like you wanted the governor to hold his word, but you also don't necessarily feel bad for him because it was a just sentence for what happened. So it was just a very, and that's how life is. So I'm just saying, I felt like bringing it to that end point was like I said, we're exactly where everybody should.
But see, they were also trying to ruin his life past that because of the news letter that they put out.
And that was the crazy part about it.
The way that they chose to explain
unnecessary.
The way that they chose to explain the fact that they had let him out, they chose to make it as if he had been escaped
for
a week, and he was just living on the run for a week.
I mean, seriously. And these are the types of things. Now it's on him. Now he's done it. Now it looks like he's this escaped convict. And I love it because you also
see the complexity. Tries to go for parole, forget about it.
Now, and you have the young Black men who were also on the basketball team with Jesus, one being his cousin. And they say they're reading it, and the cousin is like, but how can you escape when you're just walking around on the street free? He was like, they dropped them off. He was like, that doesn't even make sense. You're
and then
right.
one of them was like, that's why I don't even watch the news or pay attention to the news. And it's true. It's true.
It's so true.
It's just these systems that are supposed to be about punishment and rules of law. They just aren't real because they aren't consistent, and everybody doesn't have the same experience in those systems, so they can't be real. You know, they just are excuses to for people to lose out.
Yeah.
You know. And so this is a good segue to kind of talk about we're talking about the character of the father. Let's talk a little bit about their relationship between the father and the son. And bro, you started to go there when you were talking about the complexity of Jake, being released to go and coerce his son to sign on the dotted line. I would love to hear your perspective, bro, on just this relationship between this father and son and the complexity.
Well, there's a lot of pieces to it, because you want to feel like he's selfish for even accepting this, opportunity to try to get his son to go to this school and do what he's got to do. But from his perspective, you got to think, well, first of all, I did do this work with him. He is where he and it's like, even though you don't want to say that, that's still the fact, though. That's that
lay the foundation.
Yeah, he would not be where he was had it not been for him pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. And if you notice, they weave that in to the story, because the people who were talking about him as an athlete, the son as an athlete, they were just saying he's a guy who will come and give you the whole 40 minutes. He'll give you everything for the entire time. And then you see him being trained by his father, and his father just pushing him and pushing him. Keep going, keep pushing him to the point where it was cruel, but that's how he got to where he was. So there is certain part of it that's like, well, I did all this work. You know what I mean? You've achieved the skill based on the foundation. So I don't know. I feel like I could come ask you if you need to go, to big state, but it's still a selfish thing, so I'm just saying that relationship and the how he feels about his father, in the sense of like, look, you killed our mother at the end of the day, and he was a drunk, he was abusive. He did not intend to kill her in that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there is that
in
there. It's in there. It's in there, because I like how they showed the abuse scene, because he was definitely abusive, but he didn't close, give her a left hook in the face or something. It was like a situation where you could tell he didn't mean for it to go where it went. You know what I mean? And I'm not excusing it at all. I'm just saying that he wasn't intending, you know what I mean, for you to,
it was accidental. It was accidental.
It was an accident. So that leaves,
especially because people hit their heads all the time, and they're
all
fine.
the time, and it'll be fine. 95 times out of 100 is fine.
You hit it that one way, that
one way.
He probably always pushed her and always pushed her and always hit her. You can tell the abuse was a part of their dynamic.
Yes,
you could see that was apparent. It was a part of even his parenting dynamic. He was obviously abusive.
Yeah, he was very.
So
even to the point where his boy was like, "Yo."
It was still an accidental murder. you know? And
Yeah.
then the other thing that is really complex about it is that the heated moment that was actually happening at the time that the mother was killed was because Jesus, as a young guy, was standing up for himself. He was
Yeah.
trying to draw the line. He was trying to say, you know what? I'm not going to keep being under your thumb like this. And so in the moment where the son finally kind of like is asserting himself, it was that kind of escalated everything.
Ooh.
And so, Jesus Shuttleworth also has to grapple with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't shove his mother, but he was a part of the escalation
Of
at
the
that
of the
moment,
whole circumstance.
of
Yeah.
the whole circumstance. And of course,
Yeah.
I'm sure he blames his father for that too, as he should. And so it's just so complicated. And then you think about how well these actors had to like portray these characters in order for us to feel any kind of empathy, or start to, feel anything along the lines of like the mixed emotion
Right.
that
Yes.
all the characters were feeling, you know.
But something you brought up earlier, sis, helped
Mhm.
to bring that together was you called it the Spike Leeisms,
I call it spikeism.
I
Spikeism.
Spikeism,
Yeah.
Yes.
where that part where they're talking to the camera